Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Lynette. And thank you guys for joining us today. The first and most important thing I want to express to you is that we're here for you. And I have been in your shoes. So I'll give you a little background about me. And thank you for that wonderful introduction, Kate, because I am the agribusiness for the Piedmont region for North Carolina marketing in agriculture. And so I cover 21 counties. But if you don't live in my 21 counties and you want me to come see you, I will. No problem. When your schedule allows, let me know. Um, and so when we talk about agribusiness, we talk about, really helping our farmers, helping our small businesses, and really grow in agriculture in North Carolina. It is our number one industry, and we are very blessed in North Carolina because a lot of people may not know this, or you do. We're blessed with over 150 commodities in North Carolina, from Christmas trees all the way to oysters, right at the sea. So everything in between, from blueberries to apples to peaches to soybeans to tobacco to chicken, poultry, um, pork. We just cover it all. And so out in the Midwest, they have like three commodities. So here in North Carolina, we are very, very blessed. Just to kind of back up and give you my background, is I started my own pickle company in 2009. And so I was Miss Jenny's Pickles, and I had it for 9 years. And so I grew every cucumber and jarred every jar by hand for the first 2 years. So when you talk about working hard and, not enough hours in the day, I get it. I've been there, done that. At the height of it, we were in about 3,400 stores in the United States from all across the country, from Williams Sonoma, Harris Teeter, Buy Right, Shop Right, up north, Stu Leonard's up north. Um, you know, let's think, all the locals, from Food Lion to Lowe's Foods, you name it, we were there. I have done probably 700 trade shows around the world. We also exported to four different countries. We were in China, Canada, the UK, and Mongolia. So it was an amazing ride. And so then the opportunity arose for an international marketing specialist with the Department of Ag. And so I applied 3 years ago, got that job. And I'll just tell you, God knows what he's doing because I live in Kernersville, right in the middle of the state, and I was working out of Raleigh. And so the agribusiness came up, and my first life was 20 years of banking. So I have the banking background, and then I have the entrepreneur background. And so it's really a honor and a privilege to work where I do now because I get it. I've been on both sides of the table. I can save you time and money. So if you have a product and you want to grow it, um, reach out to me. I will come visit you. I will tell you what you need to do. Great example. I went to the Spring Folly on Saturday, our little festival here in Kernersville, and I ran into Gardner Bob. And he made pickles and he made other things. And I picked up his jar and I said, "Hey, we don't have any traceability on this jar." He's like, "I know. I'm not sure how to figure that out." I said, "Well, I'm here to help you, right?" So I got his card, bought some pickles, bought some other things from Gardner Bob, and he's actually in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I'm going to go help him. And so I will be more than happy to help you. I don't have a formal presentation today. What I would rather do is kind of get a feel for the need that's out there and give you some quick tips. And my first tip that I always share with people is your case count should be six. Always start with a six case count. People are like, "No, I do a 12." I had one lady doing a 48 case count. I said, "Oh, dear God, no, you can't do that." Because I'll tell you what happens when you get in retail, because you're going to be a wholesaler if you go to retail, then, only six typically jars fit on a shelf. So those other six get lost in the black hole in the back of the store. And nobody cares about your product more than you. So you want to make sure that it doesn't get lost in the back of the storage room because they don't know when the jar is sold immediately to go restock that shelf. And therefore, then it gets lost or it gets damaged. And guess what happens? It gets billed back to you. So you don't want that. And yes, we want as many cases in that store as possible, but we want to make sure that it's protected because you don't want the bill back. And trust me, the bill backs happen. The other thing is if you have a retail product anywhere from pickles to sauce to, I work with Rebecca at Piedmont Pennies down in Charlotte. She's got a great product and a really nice, successful success story. And in fact, she just sent out her largest order today. So I can't wait to figure out where that's going. Also, there is an event that you need to mark your calendars. We've already held it this year. It's called Flavors of the Carolina. And so even if you don't come and be a vendor or set up a booth to meet buyers, but we bring buyers in from Food Line, Harris Teeter, Lowe's, and other buyers who own independent grocery stores or just gift stores around the state. You should come walk that show, and that it will be held next February, and it's in Greensboro. So, Kate was kind enough to give you my email. I'm going to go ahead and give you my cell phone because it was on every jar of pickles. I also was in politics for 4 years, so it was in the paper every week. So I have no problem with anybody calling me. My number is 336-978-0041. Please use me as a resource. Your taxpayer dollars pays my salary, so let me come work for you. Okay. The other thing is, let me tell you a little bit about our Got to Be and See program. It is free. There is no need not to sign up for Got to Be and See. Your product needs to be made in North Carolina. Our new slogan is grown, caught, raised, made. So if you're growing a crop or you're raising livestock or you're making pickles or making barbecue sauce or you're selling oysters, you qualify for Got to Be and See. And so we want to make sure that you participate in that. We're also working on a new community program of Got to Be and See to where we can connect y'all and you can get online and ask questions because I promise you somebody's done it or has failed at it, and you want to talk to the person who failed at it because they'll save you time and money of what not to do. And so, does anybody have just a real burning question that you want to ask me right now? And you can go online, just Got to Be and See, and sign up, and it's free. And then you'll also have more resources within our department because we have domestic and we also have international. And each one of those marketing specialists cover a certain crop or a certain industry. So, like last week, I was at the strawberry farm up in Dobson, and we have a dedicated market specialist just for the strawberry crop, and we have it for a lot of other different things. So, if you want to ask me anything, now's your time. If you want me to come see you, you have my number. Kate put it in there. You also have my email. But I'm really, I'm here for you. So I'll be glad to take any questions and make sure that you are taking advantage of, like, NC State has a certified foods program, good manufacturing practices. Those are all beneficial courses and classes that will help protect your product. Also, you need to make sure you have insurance. I was with somebody 2 weeks ago and I'm like, hey, you do have an umbrella policy, right? They're like, no. Food products need to have coverage because with what's going on, you've got to have a traceability and you've got to have a recall program in place. And it doesn't have to be hard, but you want to have it in place because I promise you, when you get big enough, guess who knocks on your door? The FDA, especially if you're selling across state lines. And they're not there to help you, they're there to gather information. So we want to make sure that we help you start off on the right foot. And if you don't have your systems in place, we can come help you do that. And again, it's not difficult and it's not as hard as people think. They really like handwritten logs because you can't alter a handwritten log at the last minute like you can on a computer. So if you're working in the kitchen, or you need help with a co-packer, I can connect you with co-packers across the state. So, yes, Lynette, ask away.
Yeah, I've got a question, Jenny. What's the process of working with Got to Be and See, or how do I get my product into that program? Can you just like follow? What are the steps for that?
Yep. Basically, you're going to fill out your application. We're going to verify that the product is actually made in North Carolina. And then we will promote your product using your pictures. And we also have a videographer on staff who will come take pictures of your product for you, and then we will get you uploaded on our website. And when people search like blueberry jam, then all the blueberry jam that's part of our program would be listed. And it also gives you a really big database of, hey, you can partner with other companies that are within the Got to BNC program. And then, like the flavors show I was explaining, we have a display to where you will bring your product and display it in a big showcase at the front of the event center so that buyers can look, see where you're located within the event and find you. Also, I do boots on the ground. I was talking to Popcorn Stars last week out of Charlotte. In fact, they're so cute. They're on my calendar once a week now for 4 weeks. So we have a meeting every Tuesday at 9 o'clock, and they tell me what their bottleneck is or what their problem is. And he was like, Jenny, I really want to be a gourmet popcorn for gifts. And I said, well, let me tell you something. December gifts are decided in July. And you are in the backyard of Charlotte Motor Speedway. And last time I checked, Michael Jordan owned one of the racing teams. So I would go be delivering popcorn over to Charlotte Motor Speedway. And it might not get to Michael Jordan or to the right person the first time, but if you don't give up and persistent pays off, then you will get it there. And you want to go ahead and tell them what you're asking for. Hey, we want to be your personalized, customized popcorn for this year's Christmas. And we can make it all easy for you. And all you gotta do is give me a call. Or better yet, I'll follow up with you because I'm going to be back here next week delivering more popcorn. And they were like, you can do that? And I'm like, yes, you can do that. A great story, and again, I love to share stories, is because this is actually what's happened. But I was driving to Stu Leonard's, and if you don't know what Stu Leonard's, it's the Disney World of grocery stores. There's only four, maybe three now. But it's like you go in the grocery store and you can't, it's almost like IKEA too. You can't get out until you go through the whole thing. But they have all these animated things for the kids. They have the duck feet on the floor. They've got behind the scenes, you can watch an animated cow make actual milk that they sell within the store. I mean, it's just phenomenal. Well, I took a phone call because, again, there's so many resources out there. There's not a lot of free money out there. Everybody wants free money. I'm just going to be honest with you. Startups are hard and free money is hard to come by, but there are some grants and opportunities available for different crops, and I can help with that as well. And we do have some manufacturing processing money in Campy if it gets approved by the legislators. And we could talk about that in a minute. But let me go back to the Stu Leonard story. Is Owen George with the small business department called me and he's like, hey, Jenny, you're going to get a phone call from a 60 Minutes producer, Bob Anderson, and you will not be on 60 Minutes. But I need you to talk to him because he's going to ask some questions about your pickle business. And it was, right during the recession, kind of, and, we had businesses going out of business here in North Carolina, like Clausner, a big furniture company, and they were about 20, 30 minutes away from Kernersville, where I had Pickle World headquarters. And the other thing is, I'll tell you a fun fact, is I wore green every day for 9 years. My tennis shoes were green. Every single day I wore green because when people looked at me, I wanted them to think pickles, Miss Jenny's Pickles. And so Bob Anderson calls me and I'm driving and I said, hey, Bob Anderson. And he was like, kind of backed up. And I was like, how can I help you? He was like, well, I just have a few questions. And I said, well, Bob, where are you located? He said, I'm in New York City. And I said, well, it's your lucky day. And he was like, why would you say that? And I said, because I'm on my way to Maryland and I've got to come through New York City on my way home on Sunday. So, I'm an in-person person to meet. I really would like to meet you in person and answer any questions you might have. He was like, that's not necessary. This was a Thursday at 4 o'clock. I'll never forget this phone call, right? And I was like, okay, well, thank you, Bob. Friday at 4 o'clock, my phone rings. And I just answered, hey, Bob Anderson, how are you? And he was like, Jenny, I would love to invite you to my home on Sunday to have tea and to discuss an opportunity. I said, great, Bob. I'll let you know when I'm leaving and coming your way. And so because I put it out there, I planted the seed that I was in person and I had pickles with me and I'd love for him to taste Miss Jenny's pickles. And we could do that on Sunday. Um, he thought about it and then he called me and we had tea. And when I left that sweet man's home, he said, Scott Pelley is going to love you. And so I was on 60 Minutes the Sunday night before President Obama got reelected, and 22 million people watched that episode. And from that episode, Fred Hochberg, the chairman of the Export Import Bank of the United States in Washington, D.C., called me and said, I have a perfect position for you. I would like for you to serve on our advisory board committee. We've never had a small business, but you export and I love pickles. I said, great, Fred. So they flew me to Washington, D.C. for 4 years, once a quarter. I had dinner with Wolf Blitzer. I met Elon Musk, the governor of Washington State. So on this journey, my whole point of sharing mine with you is you never know where you're going to end up. And one thing is a stepping stone to the next. And so it was a great journey. I'm still on it, right? Because my passion is helping people just like you. And Got to BNC is a wonderful free program. I'm all about branding, so I will bring you some Got to BNC swag. I got really big signs. I've got some other things, and you can also put that logo on your product. And so once you're approved, we will provide you digital logos that you can use because we are all about Got to BNC. In fact, I go across the state. I'm a professional selfie taker and I make little videos, and my videos typically get about 10,000 views. And I hadn't even really pushed it. And I tell my friends, because they all laugh at me, is if TikTok would have been around when I started Miss Jenny's Pickles, I would have blown up and been famous. So I will tell you, if you don't have the marketing budget, because I didn't, I like to tell people that we started with a shoestring budget and our shoes were untied, right? So just remember, you can do anything. It's a lot of hard work, but it does pay off. And Got to BNC is really important. And use your social media. And you got to ask people. Like I did a little program of, hey, when you go get your jar of Miss Jenny's pickles, will you pull the next one forward? Because it really helps me out because I can't be in every store. And so when you're buying local, y'all help that product out and pull the next jar or bag forward on that shelf because the closer it is to the shelf, the easier it is to reach and take it. And if you can get it in the cart, in that shopping cart, you have a 90% chance that it's leaving the store. The other little thing I did, which was fun, let me see if I can find one real quick. And if I can't, I'm going to be embarrassed. But I did jar openers with every pickle tasting that I did. A great example, I did 68 pickle tastings in Harris Teeter. I was doing 3 stores a day sometimes, and I did it for 30 days. But I gave out pickle jars. Well, this week on Monday, or pickle jar openers, that's what this is. And so this week on Monday, I was playing Mahjong, and my friend said, oh my God, Jenny, you're not going to believe this. And I said, what? She's like, I've got to show you something. And I said, okay. And she was like, look at what I use in my kitchen. And she still had her Miss Jenny's, and I don't know if you can see it with the glare, jar opener in her drawer, still using it. And I closed the business in 2018. So the whole purpose of this was I wanted it in your kitchen. So when you needed to open a jar, it reminded you of Miss Jenny's pickles and you would buy pickles. And so, the other thing I'll tell you is if you have a great product, which I know you do, people are going to want it and they're going to say, hey, can you donate to my gift basket? Well, this was a hard lesson I learned because in the beginning I was like, oh my God, yes, here, pickles, pickles, pickles. And then I started realizing, oh my gosh, I gave out $5,000 worth of pickles in gift baskets in a 12-month period. And I said, I can't afford to keep doing that. So then I started asking questions. So if you came up to me, like Kate would say, hey, Jenny, can you donate to my son's school? We're doing a raffle and we'd like to give a gift basket away and we'd like to include Miss Jenny's pickles. I'd say, absolutely, Kate. What's your favorite jar of Miss Jenny's pickles? And people, when you catch them off guard, they don't lie. She would go, oh, I've never had them. I was like, I'm a small business owner, and if you can't support me, how can I support you? Because I have to pay for that jar of pickles. But if you could tell me, hey, I like Miss Jenny's bread and butter, or I like the award-winning habanero, then I would absolutely donate to you. But if you got to ask the question, are they supporting you? Or are they just asking for something for free? Because nothing's free. It costs somebody something. The other thing is, if you have won an award, and I don't care if it's a blue ribbon award at your local fair, right? Then you have an award-winning product. And award-winning triggers the brain to say, oh, that is good, right? So you want to make sure you're promoting that you have an award-winning product. The other thing is, if you want to export, then you got to make sure you have the American flag on your label. Because if you're exporting to different countries, not everybody speaks English, but everybody knows the American flag. And they will buy American products over their own products a lot of times. That's how I exported to China 5 times. I sent 5 pallets at a time, 5 different times in China, and I promise you it was because of the American flag. Also, use your local resources. Like I use the UNC Keenan School. I also use the UNCG Bryan School. They have students that have to have projects and for entrepreneurs. And so I would ask them, hey, can you research this? Like, what's the best country that I should be exporting pickles to? Well, come to find out, it was Russia. Every day, Russians put a bottle of vodka and a jar of pickles on their kitchen table for dinner. Who knew? Okay. But I didn't have the time to do all that. So I use my local resources. Community colleges are great to use as well. Let's see what else I can tell y'all. Or I can answer more questions. Hey, Kate, go ahead.
All right, had to find my unmute button. So I just wanted to kind of follow up on a few things from kind of the manufacturing side of what you've already said. I absolutely love this network that y'all are creating. And you mentioned and you gave that example of if you're making blueberry jam, you can see all the blueberry jam manufacturers. Well, I think about our supply chain. And if you're a local bakery and you want to put blueberry jam into a Danish, you can support others within the Got to Be NC network, which I just think is absolutely wonderful to not only yourself have a local product, but be supporting your co-workers in North Carolina. Um, but the other thing that really resonated with me was that the go get 'em attitude that so many of our entrepreneurs have to have. And I recognize that social media is so important in this day and age. And I actually follow not only the Department of Ag, but Got to Be NC on Facebook and Instagram. Can you talk a little bit about how easy or difficult it is to get those highlight spots on social media with your division?
Well, I'm gonna be honest. It's doable. It is kind of a jump through hoop because we have to have public affairs look at it. We have to have so many eyes on it. But we have the best person, Sarah Ray, and I have her cell phone, and I'm like, Sarah Ray, you've got to promote this company. And so sometimes they'll use my little videos that I do, or but not that much, to be honest with you. I just do it because I like promoting myself and promoting the farms and the companies that I visit. But yes, we can definitely connect. You can raise your hand and say, hey, I want to be on the Got to Be NC page, and we will have that media person because I don't run the social media outlets. So we have dedicated people, but I'll connect you and say, hey, this is a big time that's coming and we want to promote it. Like I just set up last week, my strawberry farmer in Dobson, they also do pumpkins. So I scheduled a videography session to go out there in September to promote their pumpkins, and that will air on our social media channels as well as YouTube. So we just have to schedule it. And so that's why I'm like, well, it's not as easy as you think because we have to schedule it. But we'll be glad to do that. Glad to do it. And then also, I want to talk about you brought up Kate manufacturing. It is so important to know where your ingredients are coming from. I don't care if you go to Costco. I went to Costco and bought vinegar, right? But write down that lot number, write down the date, write on your vinegar jar. I took a black Sharpie. This is the date it came into my kitchen, right? So it's that simple, a black Sharpie writing on the vinegar. And then every time you use an ingredient in that batch, it's got to be connected to where you bought it, right? So as traceability, recall, plus you want to know what you actually use because you want to be using your oldest ingredients first, you know? And so we want to make sure that we're using all the vinegar up before we open a new jar of vinegar. And we don't want to co-mingle, and you definitely don't want to cross-contaminate. And so there's some safety things that we really need to look at and make sure that you're crossing T's. Again, don't be scared. Don't be intimidated. Once you get in the groove and you get your processing going, it just flows because it's an automatic. And so that's what ended up happening with us. And I literally had a 3-ring binder and had a sheet that said kitchen log. I put the date on it. I put who was in charge of the kitchen that day. I listed every employee that worked that day because if in 2 days that employee comes to me and said, "Oh my God, Jenny, I'm sick. I didn't know I was sick and I worked in the kitchen." Well, then I can go back and see what product was made while that employee was sick. Because again, nothing intentional, but things happen. It's life. So you want to be able to do that. You also need to make sure that you're holding a batch or a jar or a bag or whatever your product is. You need to make sure that you're holding some back. Like, so in 6 months, I want to open that jar and see that the integrity and the quality of that jar of pickles is still valid, right? Everybody's like, "Oh, 2 years." Not necessarily. And my name was on the jar, and your, hard work is going into your product. So you want to make sure your integrity of the product lasts the shelf life that you're stating that it is. Because, again, it's food. Things happen. If a seal got broke in transportation, then I wanted somebody to call me. And my phone would ring. Not that much. People are like, "You're stupid. You put your phone number on every jar." I'm like, look, if they like it, I want to know. If they don't like it, I want to know, right? And the cutest one was a little lady in High Point. She said, "I just cannot get this jar open." I drove to High Point and opened her jar of pickles for her. And guess what? She lived in a retirement community, and I could not keep bread and butters in that Harris Teeter over there to save my life. It was hilarious because she told everybody, "She didn't came and open my jar of pickles." Well, that's what small business is. And so just remember, um, you can have a lot of fun with it. It's a lot of hard work. But there's always a different way. When somebody says, "No, you can't do it," I promise you it can be done. It can, period. There's just, it might be not be conventional. It's kind of like I always say, think outside the jar, right? That's what we did while we were doing pickles. And so now, I see things like with my popcorn people, he had 100 different SKUs of popcorn. And I was like, "You're never going to make money on 100 SKUs. You need to tone it down and you need to get really focused and really good at what you want to do. Because 100 SKUs, that's overwhelming and you're losing money." He said, "How'd you know that?" I'm like, "I can see it. It's all right here on the wall. That's way too many." I met with a chef in Raleigh on Monday, and she was like, "Hey, I've got this great product." I'm like, "Yes, you do, but what do you want to do?" And she was like, "Well, I want to do institutional. I want to do schools." I said, "Okay." And then she was like, "But I want to do CGP." I was like, "Okay, well, that's two different avenues, and you're a startup, so we need to pick one path, and then we'll get good at that, and then we'll build on it, right? Don't try to be everything to everybody at all times. Sometimes it's okay to say, 'Hey, I'm not there yet,' right? But always get their information and always follow back up. Even if, it's not next week, but you're 3 months down the road. That's what I would do. I'd get business cards and I'd say, 'Oh, let me call this person.' And I would say, 'Hey, we met in New York City. I did the fancy food show for 9 years in New York City.' And there's a way to do that. Don't just go sign up on a booth, right? I'm going to teach you how to do that because you need to be a new brand on the shelf the first time. If you exhibit at the New York Fancy Food Show, you can never go back and be a new brand on the shelf. You have to do it the first time that you exhibit, and you want to do it because every single buyer that attends that show walks that row. And so you don't want to miss it. It's a 2-foot table. You're crammed in there with everybody else, but everybody stops. And that's how I got Williams Sonoma was from New York. And so, and that was one of my things. I was in Dean and DeLuca as well. I wanted to be, there was no junk in my jar, and I wanted to be a high quality pickle company. And I really wanted them to be bought, right? And just be the pickle lady. But God had a different plan. And now I'm here with you. So it worked out perfect. Any questions or anything I can help you with, or anybody got a problem that you don't know how to solve right now? Well, that's good news, right? Okay, well, I can keep telling
Looks
you.
like we
Oh,
have a
go ahead.
question, Jenny.
Yeah,
Yeah. Mhm.
yes, sir. I'm here. Is it Ender? How do you say your name?
Oh yeah, Ender. Sorry, I
Okay,
didn't know
perfect.
the request.
Hi.
Hi. So it's very impressive. Thank you for sharing all these experiences. So
Sure.
a question regarding the channels. I mean, let's say I have Mr. Ender's Pickles. Okay, I did manufacture either a ghost kitchen or whatever. I did prepare it, and I agreed packaging, which is another question. But I know there must be lots of packaging companies, etc. But anyhow, so I have the product. So I have this all social media. I apply, gotta be ANSI, and I approved things like that. But how about the channels? Do I need to go to the distributors, or do I need to go directly to the local shops, or the fair exhibitions? So what's the best way or Amazon maybe if my product, let's say, shelf period is long, so maybe I can use Amazon. In some cases, my product needs to be delivered in the cold chain also. There is another, problem. So what you suggest to start with the channels to distribute your products? Which way you for the small business, for the new startup, is the best?
Yes. Well, so when I started, I knocked on doors, right? So I went to the little produce stands. I went to the little stores that carried gourmet. And I would say, hey, I'm Miss Jenny. I've got pickles. I would, here's my wholesale price. I see you don't have pickles. Also, know your competition, right? And I want you to understand there is enough room for everybody. Some people get all offensive, like, no, I can't help you, but you can. So I set my vision on, I wanted to be in Williams Sonoma and Dean and DeLuca. And so when I would go to New York, I would figure out who their buyers were. And it's really a little trick to try to figure out who they were. But you can also see their name tags and you can see that. But if you're just starting out, then what you want to do is you want to build almost, I hate the word cult, but you want to build a niche, right? And so, like, for example, there is a hog farmer right outside, she's in Sherrills Ford near Lake Norman. Well, her processing plant is right next to $1 million development of homes. And I said, okay, you need to go and put something on everybody's mailbox or everybody's door that you are a woman owned sausage that's made right here in your backyard because her distribution is like you, cold, right? And I said, Amy, what's your distribution? She said 40 miles. I said, no, you need to be 50 miles because it sounds better, right? And we only distribute in this 50-mile radius. So we're going to blow up this 50 miles because you can't get McLaughlin sausage anywhere in North Carolina or across the country unless you live in the 50 miles. So anybody who lives in that 50 miles is only going to buy McLaughlin by the time I get done with them because it's so special. And everybody likes to feel special. The other thing is, I've had people go, hey, well, I don't know about retail. Because also understand, when you go retail, Harris Teeter, Lowe's, I'm just using my local one, Food Line, everybody makes more on your product than you do. Please understand that. When you're selling wholesale, and I'll just use round numbers. So let's say my wholesale price was $2.50, right? Food Line paid me $2.50. It cost me $1.25, $1.50 to make that jar of pickles. So I'm making $1 just for round numbers. They're going to put it on the shelf for $5.99, right? So understand that when you go that big, like I went really big, they were making more money on my product. So the only way I could catch up was volume. So I had to get more stores. But if you want to put cash in your pocket, go to the farmers market. And we have some amazing farmers market right here in North Carolina. One in Raleigh, one in the Western North Carolina, right here at the Piedmont. You also have local farmers markets within your towns. And what you do is you build your brand on the local level. Your number one or your most cost effective product is the one online or the one you sell from your hand. because it's sold without all the added expenses. When we get into distributorship, I will be honest with you, the food industry is like the mafia. And I was a stockbroker, I was a banker for 20 years in my first life, okay? And we thought Wall Street was something. Well, the food industry is. And the margins are so tight. So you got to really love your product. You got to love what you do in order to do this. And I love pickles. I mean, I still buy pickles every a week. I bought pickles from Gardner Bob on Saturday because I love to try them. But just understand the margins in food are tight. And like when I went to Lowe's Foods and I was meeting with the vice president, and he's like, okay, Jenny, we're going to put you in the store, but you got to use our distributor. Or he didn't even say our distributor. He said, you have to use MDI. That's who distributes our product. And I was like, okay. So I drive to Hickory. I meet with this not so nice lady. And she was like, you're not going to be Mount Olive. What makes you think you're going to get in this store? And I get blah, 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 whatever, blah, blah, blah. So I just kept my mouth shut and I listened. And she was so rude that I literally said, thank you for your time. And I got up and I walked to the door and I turned around and I said, oh, I just have one question. What would you like me to tell Vice President Frank Smith about our meeting today? And she went, Frank Smith sent you here? I said, yes, ma'am, he did. I just want to clarify and make sure I'm expressing the right information. And she was like, you can tell him you're in all our stores. I said, thank you. And I left. But I took a little snot meeting from her and she was beating my product down. I just smiled and said, okay, because I'm going to get there one way or another because I didn't give up. But then guess what I learned? Lowe's Foods owns MDI. So not only is Lowe's Foods getting a chunk, MDI is getting a chunk, all from me and my jar of pickles. So what do you really want to accomplish? Do you want to put cash in your pocket so you can reinvest in your company? Do you want to build the brand? And if you want to build the brand, then you need to do it locally. Oh, and this is another big piece that you need to know. Friends and family lie. They're going to tell you, this is the best pickles you've ever made. Oh my gosh, I love them. They're going to turn around and spit them out. But if you go to a stranger, and that's what I did, do taste tests on strangers. And when that person looked at me and said, can I buy this jar of pickle? I knew my recipe was good enough to sell. But my friends and family, they didn't want to tell me I had too much vinegar in that jar or not enough salt. But a stranger will tell you the truth because they're not invested in you. They have nothing to lose. They don't know you. So they will tell you, this is terrible. I had people that would come up to me. I'm doing a pickle demo, right? Make sure you're branding, everything branding. I mean, I wore a belt buckle, Miss Jenny's pickles belt buckle. I still wear it today sometimes because I'm the only one, right? But strangers will tell the truth and they'll come up to your table and they'll be like, I don't eat pickles. And you say, that's okay. We all can't be perfect. Have a good day, right? So don't let people being rude to you not throw you off track. And remember, nothing's personal. Nothing's personal. So don't take it personal. And I encourage you to ask strangers about your product. Somebody you've never met, just say, hey, like I sat out at Smitty's, which is a local restaurant here in Kernersville, and they had picnic tables. And I asked the owner, can I just sit out here and let people try my pickles? Because I'm trying to figure out this recipe. He said, sure. And so people would be honest. They were like, oh, that's too much salt. Oh, that's too sour. And then I had the guy. And I'll never forget it. I said, what's your name? He said, Pete Howard. I said, what would you pay for that jar? He said, what do you want? $10? And I was like, how about 5? Because again, I had $1.50 in it. So I was selling jars at $5 back in the day. But that $5 went in my pocket. And so then I pay. Oh, and the other little trick to it is you really want cute high school girls or college girls to promote your product. I'm telling you, when I started hiring them to do product demos, tastings, we would sell out. The other thing is, if you're doing an in-store demo, go get your product off the shelf, put it on your table, because you don't want somebody to have to go find that product that they just tried. You want to make sure that you get it in that basket or that shopping cart to go home. And the best way to do that is make it easy on the person that's trying the product. Because I knew if you tried Miss Jenny's pickles, you were going to buy them. So also believe in that and come up with your little slogans. Like there was no junk in my jar, right? Come up something that sticks with it. But if you want to get started, I would really build my brand locally through social media and through, the other thing is do contests. Say, hey, when you buy my product, tag me, take a picture, or do a little video. But also make sure you have your social media settings set to where people cannot post on your page without your approval. You're going to see everything, but you get to say, yes, I'll let that post. No, I won't let that post. But don't tell people you're doing that. Okay. But you need to control that, right? And also don't feel like you have to have the biggest team at one point. That's another thing is I see companies spend all this money trying to get the right people in place and they have no product. I'm like, you're already in the red. It's good. And also think of this. People would come to me and like I had a marketing firm out of Raleigh come and they were like, hey, we're going to promote you. We're going to do this. And I said, okay, how many jars of pickles do I have to sell to pay your $25,000 marketing proposal? And they're like, huh? I'm like, I always think in how many jars or how much of my product do I have to sell to do this? And if it doesn't equal out, then you have to say, hey, thank you, but it's not the right time, right? And the other thing they did is they went to the local restaurant, and I know everybody, right? And they had champagne for lunch, and they were promoting. We just landed Miss Jenny's pickles. So when they called me back the next week, I was like, you really shouldn't be having champagne in Kernersville at lunch talking about my company in public. So I'm sorry I can't do business with you. And I ended up going with a firm out of Charlotte. So pay attention to the red flags because they don't have your best interest at heart. I hope that helps. I hope I answered your question. But if I'm building a brand from scratch, I'm going to go within my network, but I'm also going to ask a lot of strangers. Because remember something, strangers make you rich. Not your friends, not your family, but strangers buy your product. So that's who you want to try your product. I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you. It's very clear. Thanks.
Of course. Of course. I can tell a story, man. I can tell you what I did and what I didn't do. And again, if you don't take anything away from this, your case count must start at 6. Because what's 6 plus 6? 12. That's 2 cases. And let me tell you something. 2 cases looks better on an invoice or a purchase order than 1. So
Good
just, it's
advice,
all,
Jenny.
yeah, it's just, I'm just telling you, that's the way it works. We can add to it. 6 plus 6 plus 6 is 18. That's 3 cases, right? But you can never take away. And then your product gets lost in the back and you're going to pay for it. So,
Great.
yes, Lynette. Oh, we got another
Yeah, we have
hand
a question
raised.
in the chat, Jenny.
Yeah.
I just want to call
Go
this
ahead.
out.
Thank
How
you.
does Got to Be NC qualify their product as local to North Carolina? Can you use a co-packer outside of the state and have your business headquartered here, or does it have to be manufactured inside state lines? And I know we had another
That's,
question beyond this one, so we'll get to
yeah.
it.
Okay. And that's a great question. So if you're headquartered in North Carolina, you're using an out-of-state co-packer, that's okay. Is the ingredients grown in North Carolina? Because see, a lot of ingredients is grown in North Carolina, but will be sent to South Carolina for co-packing. So we just have to look at 80%, I think, or maybe 70% of that product has to either be made, grown here in North Carolina, but it can be processed somewhere else, even though we don't want it, but it can, and you still qualify. So again, that's a just, hey, let's talk about your actual individual product. But yes, we do have Got to Be and see companies that have their product made outside of North Carolina because it's grown in North Carolina. So you still qualify, and it's all about Got to Be and see. Yeah, next question.
Sure. Good evening. Good afternoon, everyone. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great. My name is Alicia, and I'm, of course, is a new entrepreneur to startup. And my business is more of the preference of herbal drinks. So I'm a holistic health and wellness healer. So just providing those products to clients. So, more of beverage, tinctures, teas, and things. And in regards to that, wanting to know as in for startups, I kind of came in late. I was at work about as in procuring like funding, grant funding, or anything to that nature because I've been paying out of pocket um, to provide, some of my products, as you said earlier from your statement about test trials with strangers and things of that nature. So if you can elaborate a little bit on that or any other information, for guidance. I greatly appreciate it. And
Are
great
you
meeting
are
everyone.
you in Greensboro? Are you in
Yes,
Greensboro?
yes, I am.
Okay. I want to get on your calendar and I'll come see you. Funding is difficult in the state of North Carolina for a startup, but there could be opportunities for investors. And so if I can come learn your story, then I will point you in the right direction. But I did make the statement earlier, probably before you got here, and I'm glad you're here because it's never too late to join us, just so you know. Um, but startup money is hard in North Carolina. They want a 3-year track record. So, what we could possibly do is I might be able to connect you with a partner that's not a startup that would be able to help either make your product or help invest with you and your product. So, there's a lot of different avenues. I also was on part of the West Texas Investors Club reality show back in the day. And so, I have investors out of Texas that are always like, hey, Jenny, when you find a company or somebody who really needs that you believe in, let us know. And I was like, okay. So I've connected them a couple times. I also have a connection at QVC. I was on QVC 8 times. And so I've also introduced products at QVC and got them on the show. So there's several different ways. But I'm a resource and I'm in your backyard. So my telephone number is in the chat. If you just scroll down there, you'll have my personal cell phone number. If you want to text me when it's a good time to meet with you, I will come over and see you. We'll just give me about an hour and we'll just talk. I'll buy you coffee or whatever you want, and or I'll come to your kitchen, whatever's good for you. And then I can figure out your true need of finance and see what's the best way to help you.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm still at work, so I probably won't get off till about 8. But we can do a phone conference. That would be prevalent to me, and then probably down
That's
the road we
fine.
can meet face to face. And I'm greatly I'm excited about that. So yeah, I would definitely reach out to you. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, please do. And just understand, I don't work just 9 to 5 or 8 to 5. I work weekends, I work nights. I've been there. So, in fact, the people who I met with after 8 o'clock, I ended up doing the most business because they came to me when I had time, right? During the day I was out delivering or doing pickle tasting, and then, people wanted to get my business, get my label business. I met that guy at 10 o'clock at night. And I said, the only time I got is 10 o'clock. He's like, I'll be there. And do you know what? He ended up printing over 1 million labels for me. So remember, your business, your time. People's got to come to you if they want your business. So don't sell yourself short and don't think I won't meet you after 8 o'clock when you get off work. But we'll start with a phone call, and I'm really glad that you're on right now.
Thank you.
More questions?
Just one other statement. Then proceeding on. I don't see it in the chat. I'm using my mobile, so if in regards, I don't see, I'm
Hey,
seeing the other links
will
for
you
the other events.
give me your number and I'll reach out to you?
Okay, it's 336
Uh-huh.
988
Uh-huh.
5439.
Done. I'll text you shortly.
Thank
And just real quickly chiming in for everyone else on the phone call, since you registered and participated in the webinar, you're going to get a follow-up email from me, and all of Jenny's contact information will be in there. She'll be CC'd on that email, so you'll have a direct link to her later this afternoon.
Thanks, Kate. And I just want to stress, no questions too small, no obstacle is too big that we can't overcome it, or I can't figure it out, or you can't figure it out, or Kate or Lynette. The resources are here. So please use your resources. And they have a wonderful series from 1 to 2 for the every Wednesday in May and part of June. So if you can get on there, it's worth your time. And like Kate said, if you can't come at that time, no problem. They're going to have a replay. So make sure you go back. Can't sleep at night, go back and watch them later. I did a lot of work that way. And so just know we're here for you. We're a resource. I promise you, I can save you time and money because you don't know what you don't know. And I learned that the hard way. Questions? Wow, that was a fast hour. And here I was nervous. I didn't have a PowerPoint.
No, we appreciate the stories, Jenny, and you do a great job of making it real. Okay. So
Absolutely.
thank you for that. I did post a quick link in the chat. You know, your feedback, participants, your feedback on this is so helpful for us to know if we're headed in the right direction with this educational series. And we hope, you know, like Kate mentioned, we'll be in Wilmington June 11th for the in-person series. Jenny is actually going to be in Wilmington there with us. Looking forward to that. And we'll also be out west later this, I guess, in June.
And my
thank you for your
counterpart, Vicky, I'm gonna
participation.
have there. Sorry to interrupt, Lynette. Vicky, Ashley, we just hired her, and so I'm gonna have her at the Western in person because I think that's like June 18th, and I'm going to Italy.
That's awesome. Good for you. So
Yeah, I'm
multiple
excited.
ways to connect with Got to Be NC. So what a great service that you provide for the state. All right,
Thank
one
you.
last chance for questions.
Yeah,
If
and I just
anybody's
want to
holding
say,
back.
God to BNC is real important. I believe in it. It is what we are so blessed. Again, 150 different commodities right here in our state. So we're very, very lucky. And make sure that you're buying Got to BNC. That's important too. Oh, and when you're buying another local, give them a shout out on social media. I did a video in Burlington for a cattle farm and they were selling bone sucking sauce in their farm stand. So I gave a shout out to Patrick Ford. Well, guess what? Then he reposted it and then it got reposted again. So when you praise people, it only comes back to help you.
That's great advice. Really good. Excellent. Any reminders, Kate, before we
Let
close
me answer
today's
that
webinar?
question. That one question that says, do you have to be a producer? Again, if it's grown, caught, made, or raised, then you qualify for Got to BNC. And if you have a question, if you're eligible, again, reach out to me. We'll figure it out. Thanks.
The only thing I have, I got a little bit of feedback that